Welcome to Nonsense, Season 3, Episode 20, our big story. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Stu Little.
This time we're looking at demonstrably untrue statements, the people who believe them and why. The mind's mischief, why we fall for what isn't real, up next.
I pride myself on not believing in any falsehood.
That's a great shirt.
Why, thank you. It's very slimming, isn't it?
So you believe me when I flatter you?
Always. Wait, hold.
What? The lure of the lie, exploring our susceptibility to falsehoods.
Wait, am I fat?
Let's go.
God damn it. All right, Chubby's here. The lure of the lie.
As a kid, I was a huge Ray Bradbury fan.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if you read Fahrenheit 451, The Martian Chronicles. Oh,
how could you not? Everyone, yeah.
Short stories like There Will Come Soft Rains. He was just absolutely incredible. I got to see him in person at the LA Times Book Fair, and I was super excited.
Yeah.
He had written a script for an observatory, like the Hayden Planetarium, but I don't remember if that was the one or not.
Sure.
And he was really upset because they had rejected his script.
Okay.
He'd gotten the number of the years that the Earth existed wrong in the script, and he didn't want to just change it.
Sure.
And literally, he just had made up a number and didn't care about the science of how we date the age of the Earth.
Wait, hold on. Well, like he put down like 6,000 years or like 6 million? Like how far off was he?
It was like 14 million. It was some crazy.
Right.
It was some crazy. Like he hadn't even tried.
Sure.
And his response was about the number being wrong. He said, "What, were you there?"
Sure.
Which was like
Methuselah.
a perfect example of a retort versus a response.
Yeah.
It was insulting to the questioner and the audience, and it revealed his arrogance and how he handled being questioned. It was heartbreaking.
How dare you question my script?
I could never think of Ray Bradbury the same again.
Yeah.
The consequences of believing things that aren't true ripple through our lives and society, eroding personal well-being, hindering effective decision-making, and even fracturing the very fabric of our communities. From health choices based on misinformation to political polarization fueled by falsehoods, the dangers of accepting untruths as reality are far-reaching and can have profound, sometimes irreversible effects on individuals and the collective.
Oh, yeah.
Understanding the subtle ways our minds can be led astray is the first crucial step in safeguarding ourselves and society from the perils of misinformation. So we thought today we would talk a bit about why people believe and continue to believe these things that are objectively untrue.
You used so many words to just say what I call it. It's just bullshit. It's just all bullshit. It's just people that just insist on believing in bullshit. Demonstrably untrue bullshit.
Okay.
It's crazy to me.
Sure. What exactly constitutes these untruths? What exactly are we talking about?
Well, okay, first of all, bullshit is a wide spectrum.
Yeah, oh yeah.
There are many, many different colors of lies here to talk about. I find it most interesting to think about how do you like quantify something that's otherwise pretty qualitative, right? I think it's hard to quantify bullshit in general. So how do you make it a thing that you can actually study and try to observe?
Yeah.
And as it turns out, people way smarter than us have done this.
Sure.
Like they figured this out. The folks in psychology that have looked at this, has only been like in the past 10 years, they've looked at this portion called pseudo-profound bullshit. They literally call it pseudo-profound bullshit.
Things that seem like they're true.
Yes.
In comedy, we'd say it rattles like a joke. It's shaped like a joke. It has the rhythm of a joke.
Yes.
It just isn't funny.
It just isn't funny. Yeah. Which usually I found in that case, it's an audience problem.
Oh, sure.
I usually just yell at my audience and go, you don't understand. This is super fucking funny. Y'all should be laughing.
But what do you mean in this case with
pseudo-profound bullshit?
You're talking about things that look like they're true. They sound like they're true. It's a statement that seems like it's profound, but it really is saying nothing.
Yes, it is syntactically correct. Right? The words are in the right order. It's a sentence that's got a bunch of buzzwords and vague language. So on the surface, it appears to carry significant meaning, right? And it's profound. But if you spend like a nanosecond examining this, you realize there's nothing substantive at all, right? There's no truth.
Give me an example.
There's a couple examples that I think showcase this very well. One is saying something like, hidden meaning transforms unparalleled abstract beauty. What the fuck does that mean? It's literally word soup. It's just word, like all of those words are great words, right? It sounds lovely. It has no meaning.
Did you have ChatGPT write these? Because that sounds like something you could
This is the crazy thing. ChatGPT does a better job than this. It even knows that this shit is bullshit, which is beyond me. But there's this great study that was titled on the reception and detection of pseudo-profound bullshit. And this was sort of where they started to coin this. They took a simple example from Deepak Chopra, right? He's the prominent figure, his contributions in alternative medicine and in his extensive body of work, including books like Quantum Healing and The Soul of Leadership. They took one specific tweet from him, and it was, attention and intention are the mechanics of manifestation.
What?
That was the tweet. right?
Okay.
8 words. And that statement is so much deep insight, right? Like, do we even understand it? You really got to think about it. Then you realize it has no fucking meaning at all.
Sure.
There's no real, you can make it whatever you want. And I thought that was such a great way to narrow down your scope to a very specific sliver of bullshit that you could then sort of study. That was where I found a good quantitative example of bullshit, at least a study of bullshit now and how people respond and what are the qualities of folks that look at this. So that was sort of how we got here. But it begs the question, why do we as people, not you and I, because, you know, we're perfect, but why do we as people believe in this shit?
Yeah.
Why is this a thing that we, again, as a group, sort of come along and be like, oh yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense.
I can tell you as an investor that there's this thing that we point to all the time called herd mentality. And it's just a kind of a shortcut thinking. And probably it kept a vast majority of us centuries ago alive. The guy in front screams, there's a lion coming or whatever. And we all scramble, even though none of us saw the lion, but everybody else is scrambling. So we move as a herd to get away. That probably kept a lot of us alive until we found out the guy in front was not actually seeing a lion. He just wanted us to get off his lawn.
Yeah.
So herd mentality is wired into your brain because it was useful.
I mean, herd mentality is wired into the animal kingdom, and it works.
Mostly it works until you get someone who's actively trying to deceive you, and then you end up with the boy who cried wolf. Well, but as an investing shortcut, when the market is screaming, you know, sell, 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 the smart investors are keeping their wits about them and not falling prey to the herd mentality. That you can make a fortune by not falling prey to herd mentality and investing.
Okay, why do people believe this shit still? Like, and just taking a quick stop.
Or why do people disbelieve? Why do people disbelieve things that are scientifically proven?
Sure.
This is the huge thing about measles and the scientific method. Why are there people who are doubting the scientific method, peer-reviewed things that we have proven over and over and over again that in the majority of cases, this will solve this problem. And they're saying, oh, no, you're just falling prey to big measles.
Big measles. Yep. Big measles is out there. Yeah. I've seen all the mesothelioma ads. You're like, no, you've seen those wrong. I can promise you. 2 different things. I mean, there's so many reasons. Look, I'm neither of us are any sort of psychologist, but I do think we are fascinated by people. I got to believe there's a big number of people that just find comfort in whatever, you know, the validation of whatever they've sort of organically gotten to. Yeah. There's some modicum of comfort. And I think when you start
emotional comfort, for sure.
Some emotional comfort, for sure.
Believing falsehoods can make you feel more comfortable. If you've lost a loved one and now you believe that loved one is looking over you.
Yes, they're floating around.
Yeah,
I see them, the bird flew by, or they were in the bird.
They're taking care of me.
No, that bird's just flying away from a predator, but okay, sure. But you also, you know, part of that emotional comfort, I think, also can very quickly lead to a sense of inclusion and belonging in a group. If you're with a group of people, you might not be like-minded initially, but if they already have some belief because whatever, they found some comfort in it, you're going to be more likely to subscribe to that as well.
Plus you get that social reinforcement. Totally. We believe in it. We're part of the same herd. We're part of the same group. We're bonded.
There's this group of folks at my kid's school that's like, oh, that house is haunted. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, yeah, it's haunted. I'm like, I've fucking been in there 10 times. It's just an old house. It's not haunted. Like, what?
The house by your kid's school.
Yes.
It's totally haunted.
Oh, that one's haunted.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy to me that there's like, and you see this when people like, they look for this validation. Like, oh yeah, well, I guess it's haunted. I mean, because you said it. I'm like, no. These are grown-ass adults. These aren't the kids. These are fucking grown-ass adults. If it's a kid, I would tell them that there's ghosts and a fucking pterodactyl living in there, and there's also there's 3 crocodiles. Totally different ball of wax. There
actually is this thing in real estate where if someone was murdered on a property, you have to disclose it when you sell the real estate.
Sure.
And that's really just haunted mansion.
That's all it is.
Nonsense.
It's haunted mansion disclosure. That is so crazy. I also think humans have a general tendency, I don't know if it's to be true across everyone, but there seemed to be a tendency for folks to really like stories. Like we like, not just embellishment, but we like to tell a story. And also think we like to hear a story. Yeah. Most people like to hear this narrative. And that's why I have such a hard time, like looking at modern day. If I'm trying to ask 15 people to show up, and I'm like, I want everybody to show up. Everyone's got to be wearing a blue shirt, and we're all going to meet at noon. By the time that message gets to 15 people, you have no idea what day you're meeting. Everyone is bringing a coffee. Someone brought tea, and no one's wearing pants.
And you're meeting at 4:35.
And that happens in exactly. And that happens in the span of 12 hours. And then I'm supposed to believe that from human to human for, roughly, I don't know, 1,400 years until the printing press was invented, there was a story told. And from the beginning, I'm sure there was no embellishment anywhere along the path.
The point of what you're saying is the oral tradition had its flaws.
Yes.
It was like a game of telephone.
Okay, no, it doesn't have its flaws. That story got better. It got better every time it was told. That's not a flaw.
But all stories
do. That's a feature. Those stories get better for the sake of the story, as it should. But if you try to qualify it as like factual information being told from person to person, there's zero chance that's getting told and retold the same way. There's just zero chance. You know, especially pre-printing press, when I presume people had a better sense of understanding orally and writing things down, and it was still terrible. There's no chance that was like bit for bit representation or even close to it. So I think this is part of why people like to believe in bullshit a little bit, is because they go, well, this is a fun story. This made me feel good. It's sort of that, not only do I emotionally feel more comforted, but like I just enjoyed the story.
Okay, so we have emotional comfort, we have social belonging as a reason that people believe in things that are not necessarily true. Confirmation bias.
Once you sort of feel some way about something, you are now looking for more
reasons to reaffirm that belief.
I was going to say data. Data is the wrong term. But you try to find the things that affirm it. And other people saying the same thing certainly does that.
Again, you get this investing all the time when people buy a certain stock and then they will ignore the bad news or downplay the bad news and only look at the good news.
Of course.
It's the absolute worst thing you can do.
Totally.
You have to be completely honest with yourself.
Well, and that confirmation bias is the one thing that I brought this up before on this show. I don't believe anyone that I knew 20 years ago saw that as being an outcome of the technology we're building called the internet. We really thought it was going to be information was going to be free. You could get everything you wanted whenever.
We also thought it was going to be accurate.
Well, but then the problem is you have this human nature that wants to just be popular and spout things. Like, I'm still fascinated by people on Instagram and TikTok that manufacture shit. They'll manufacture a video that they 100% know is not true. It's like you're just doing it for the clicks, the likes, because that drives ad revenue, I guess, or makes you feel popular. But at some point in your brain, you had to be like, this is 100% not. I made this up. I made this out of whole cloth. Right. And they still do it. Wow. Really? That's the thing you do. Contrast that to somebody who just gets it wrong. All right. I can give you a little rope, especially if you back that up later and errata it. But the folks that are like, nope, I'm going to make this thing. I'm going to tell a bunch of people that there's underneath the pizza parlor, there's that basement. And like, they fucking do it. And it's amazing to me that we do. But I guess it's another version of storytelling to a certain extent.
Did the first person in the pizza parlor actually believe that there was something underneath the pizza? I don't think the pizza parlor even had a basement, did it?
No, it had no fucking basement. But the guy that showed up with a gun sure as hell thought it did.
But did the guy who initially told the story, was he under the impression that there was really a basement there?
I gotta believe the answer is no.
Or was he intentionally lying? Or just was he not in the know? He'd never been to the pizza place.
Okay. So how is that not intentionally lying? If you don't know there's a basement and you say there's a basement, that sounds like intentional lying to me. I gotta believe he repeated a thing that he or she heard or made a thing up. Both of those are intentional lying because you don't know it to be fact. And that's the part that's so fascinating to me is people just spout shit off. And I'm like, but what's your source on that? That's just the way I ask. What's your source? And they're like, ChatGPT. And I'm like, that never gets it wrong. It must be 100% right.
The internet's never had it wrong.
Do you have a trusted source on this? And those are getting harder and harder to find. Not because they're going away. Well, some of them are going away. You just have so many other quote sources of information that are just not even rooted in any sort of fact whatsoever.
Well, this is also a problem when we start to erode faith in institutions who are in the business of being very, very
That's the game
clear
plan.
with fact.
That's the game plan,
And
right?
you start saying Reuters just making up their news. It's not true. Reuters is extremely scrupulous about what is and is not fact. But you need to erode truth in that if you want to promote something that isn't true.
I also love the hiding behind pronoun usage where they're like, but this is what they want. I'm like, okay, who's they? And they're like, them. And I'm like, no, I understand they and them. I know how those words work together. Who's the them? Like, the people that want the thing.
Or some people say.
And I'm just like, okay. Like,
who are those people? Because we need a source.
Well, I know that you're just making this up. Like, that's okay. Or the person that told you this is making it up. Like, all right.
All right. So confirmation bias, a person who thinks that they are unlucky and they spill their coffee and that's confirmation to them that they're unlucky, even though it's just a single simple accident.
I totally buy that.
Cognitive shortcuts. We touched on this a little bit.
Oh, yeah. It's like where you see a thing and you do some really primitive pattern matching and you go, that looks like this thing over here. And you make your quick judgment to jump to this other thing.
You see a thing on the news about a plane crash and suddenly now you're all thinking that all planes are dangerous.
Yeah, or you see something about a plane crash and you go, Boeing just forgot the door plugs. And you're like, well, no. I mean, normally that would be true. They forgot one. But in reality, what happened here was, you had a mistake, a pilot error or a wind gust or something else. You can't just jump right to it because it kind of looks like a thing you saw before.
Somebody meets a librarian and they're quiet and they wear glasses and they assume all librarians are quiet and wear glasses. You're making that jump. Those cognitive shortcuts lead you to misbelief. anchoring heuristics. Like, for example, in negotiation, the first offer made is like an anchor.
Totally, 100%.
You always want to get your opponent, whoever you're negotiating against, to give their offer first, because you can use that as an anchor. And of course, the first thing you do is just react like, oh, that number's absolutely outrageous. There's no, that's crazy, because you're trying to influence based upon that anchor number.
Again, one of my favorite lines from one of the best movies ever made. After they trap the ghost and they tell him the cost, and he goes, I had no idea it'd be so much, I won't pay it. And they're like, okay, we're going to go just put this back. And he's like, no.
Narrative fallacy.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is humans love stories.
This is the stories. Thing,
yeah. You know, people want to believe that the Illuminati is behind the measles vaccine and there's a bunch of people on yachts.
You want to believe Elon Musk invented the Tesla.
Sure.
It's the same problem. Yeah. He's just promoted a narrative that isn't true.
Sure. I think hearing it over and over.
Sure.
Like the repetitiveness, you heard enough and you go, oh, that must be true. I think this is one of the largest effective elements of propaganda is if you just hear it over and over, you go, well, then I've heard this said so many times, it just must be true. It didn't make any sense the first 100 times I heard it. Why would it make any more sense the 105th time I heard it? It's still bullshit.
The repetition of it, though, wears you down and makes you believe this must be true.
On some folks, I guess maybe.
Everybody knows that grapefruits make you... There's narrative fallacy just because of one thing happens and it happens one time, let's say, and now you believe that it must happen every time that thing happens, and you've mistaken correlation for causation.
Oh, yeah. Easy for you to say, but I think what percentage of the population doesn't know the difference between the two?
But it's an important thing to understand the difference.
Yes, I totally agree.
You're really going to believe in some strange things if you can't distinguish the two.
I mean, I love you can just go graph shop and just find, like, show me a graph that sort of lines up with this and then just overlay the two. And people will be like, oh, well, clearly that caused that. And you're like, sure. The price of grapefruit relative to my pant size.
Well, that leads to people believing that all statistics to be misleading. And that's not true. There are statistics that are literally someone has just followed the data and this is what they found.
And how you present that and how you relate those things is part of the science.
You see a factoid that's repeatedly shared on social media. It has a tendency to increase its credibility. People start to believe those things are true.
I mean, that is the definition of propaganda, isn't it? Like, isn't that the biggest component of propaganda is repetition?
Pretty much. But that's how you get religions.
Yeah.
That's how Joseph Smith becomes the guy who says don't drink coffee. And suddenly we don't drink coffee and we think we're being better people.
Yeah.
Illusory truth effect. Let's go to the next one. Authority bias. This was the guy who in the white coat tells you to turn up the electricity and shock the guy harder.
Sure.
And you do it. Even though the guy is screaming who's getting the shocks. You still do it because there's a guy in a white coat who told you to do it.
And you have some of the weirdest kinks.
Haven't you ever heard that story?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
It was an experiment. By the way, it was completely made up. The guy pushing the shocking button wasn't actually shocking anybody.
Sure.
The guy was just behind the curtain doing an acting thing, trying to see when is this guy going to stop shocking people.
Authority is a fascinating thing on this, because I think authority can be viewed or defined multiple ways. Just because you're in a position of power, I'm not giving you any additional clout. I'm not giving you your statement.
Of course not.
But if you are the person who's, spent your career studying the thing, that in my world makes you an authority in that topic, and now I'm going to be more likely to believe you.
This was exactly my Ray Bradbury problem. Because I had such good experiences with him in the past, I was inclined to give him more rope than I would give your average person. So the disappointment was that much greater.
I understand how you view him there as an authority or expert in that, but in what? In writing.
Right. It was a bad connection on my part.
Yeah. If someone spent their whole career perfecting carbon dating and really understanding all the nuances,
of course,
I'm going to be pretty likely to believe anything they say about carbon dating. Now, they might tell me the best way to roast a brisket's at 500 degrees, and I'm going to tell them to go off and fuck themselves because they have no idea what they're talking about. You sort of need to know this. This to me is really simple. It's like good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. So have you fucked up in this space a bunch? Yes. Okay. Has that led to experience that has given you some ability to make good judgment? Great. Yeah. Now I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. Yeah. But if you haven't done that, and if you haven't found the sort of good judgment aspect of experience, if you're just failing your way up, you're probably not an expert.
Unless you're an expert in radiometric dating of meteorite material, probably I shouldn't hold you to that. Although, on the other hand, if you're writing that material for a presentation in a scientific setting like an observatory, you probably got to get those numbers right.
Well, you would hope.
And you should probably take the science seriously. What you're doing in that situation is not writing science fiction. You're trying to present truth, so you need to be accurate.
At what point, what was the main straw that broke the camel's back around not believing science? I still haven't quite figured that out. It seems to be something around, they've got an agenda. They're trying, I see this a lot with folks that are climate change deniers, and that's an whole industry. They just want, they want their funding. And I'm like, so this person spent 30 years studying this, and they're now telling this story just so they can get funding to continue to study this. That's your argument. And they go, yeah. I'm like, okay.
By the way, have you seen the way these people live? Believe me, they're not doing this for money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which by the way, makes me even more sad because they should be the highest paid folks, right? Like they're the ones that advance us as a civilization the most. But the people that we pay the most money to aren't necessarily the ones that advance us the most.
Sure.
But again, like which one of these bullshit fallacies is the one that contributed the most to the undermining of science? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out.
There are people who look back and they say, but wait a minute, Time magazine had on its cover a story about how the planet was not warming, it was cooling. And there were, I think, if I remember right, there were 2 scientists in that story who actually believed that.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they weren't wrong, and that doesn't mean they didn't change their minds later when presented with more facts. Yes, we used to put leeches on people as a medicinal treatment. Eventually we figured out, hey, the leech thing's not really doing anything.
Sure.
This is how the scientific method works. We try stuff, we have theories, we then find out, oh, that didn't work. And then we throw that away and we move on to whatever the next thing is. That's part of the scientific method.
That's the whole point. Is like science just gets better. It's constantly wrong.
Right. Like, so to look at the crazy things we did in trying to find out what was the thing that made the person actually get better and say, well, see, doctors don't know what they're talking about. They put leeches on people. Yeah. That's crazy. We had to do these things to find out what worked and what didn't.
Newton was super right and super wrong at the same time. And that was a net positive thing. You got better because of Newton. And you would hope that we continue to do that. But as you start going back and questioning the things that we've already disproven, you're like, well, wait, what? I don't mind relooking at things if you're doing it from a sense of, we have some new tech or there's some new data here.
Of course.
Of course, that is part of the process. But at some point you go, oh man, you're just grinding an axe here. This doesn't make any sense. Now you're slowing the progress of science at large. And I do feel like we are more in that state now than we have been in the past 50 years.
Right. There's just been so much drumming into people that scientists don't know what they're talking about, that none of the institutions that have some credibility, Reuters, I keep mentioning Reuters, people drummed into them that these are errant in some way. And it's not true. Yeah. They are just searching out the truth like everyone is. When they get it wrong, they are free to. In fact, they do
not only free to,
boldly
they do,
proclaim, we got this wrong.
I think that's part of good information providing and news coverage is specifically doing that.
And good science. Yeah. If you can't reproduce, if peers can't reproduce it, we got this wrong. We tried it. We thought we had something. We don't. Yeah. You have to say that part as loudly as when you get it right.
Well, okay. So let's talk about that for a minute. I think that's another part of why people continue to believe in bullshit, not just initially, but it's like once you're bought in, a lot of folks have a tendency to double down on that, even when presented with increased factual information that they are wrong. They're like, well, nope, I'm already in, so I might as well just continue to pretend that this is the thing I believe. And it's like,
that does happen. Yeah.
They just continue, and folks dig in their heels.
Especially if you start making money off of falsehood. You will never convince yourself that you are wrong if that's how you're making your living.
I agree with you. Of course, folks do this, but now you're doing that because you just want to continue the grift.
I'm not even saying it's grift. I think there are people who are in the tobacco industry who genuinely believed smoking was not addictive because their income depended on them not believing it.
If the data tells you it's not true and you don't believe the data because your income depends on it,
they would scramble to find ways so that they could dismiss the data. I'm not saying they were doing it not being well-meaning. They genuinely believed.
I have a real hard time for them to not see this and go, yeah, I see the data of these folks that are dying from lung cancer and that they're smokers. If they stop smoking, it gets better. Non-smokers don't have the same rate.
Well, eventually they got to the point where the data was completely just undeniable. But when they first were getting the data, they were finding a way to dismiss it because they felt what they were doing was not harmful because their income depended on them believing that.
That's absolutely fascinating to me.
Real quick, let's just finish this list.
Yeah.
Narrative fallacy, we did. Illusory. Truth effect, we just did. We did authority bias. Now one more, let's go. Desire for control.
Oh, yeah. I think if you have some belief that you get to choose to believe in, the act of you choosing
you get a sense of control that's false. I mean, like superstitions. You believe if you knock on wood, okay, then now the bad luck will go away.
Those superstitions are always interesting to try to figure out how they're rooted. Like, for example, I remember, I don't know, until I was like a teenager, I was like, oh, you don't walk under a ladder, you're going to get bad luck. Then one day I was like, it's a really good reason not to walk under a fucking ladder. Like, it's just
like stuff could fall on you.
Exactly. Generally, it's a good idea not to walk under a ladder. And I'm like, oh, there seems to be some truth in this. I don't think I'm getting bad luck. I just want to get the head of the fucking paint can.
But when I throw salt over my shoulder, I'm not improving anything. If I'm hitting the guy's plate behind me,
I was going to say, you're improving my soup, but I'm sitting behind you all of a sudden. Your aim ain't great, but it's mainly landing in my matzo.
It's a way for us to try to control our lives. I mean, we believe things that make absolutely no sense because we believe we will have some influence on something when there's zero logical connection.
Yeah. Aren't humans grand?
One of the lesser known behavioral experiments was called superstitious pigeons.
Oh, I don't know this.
And that is if you gave the pigeon food food, if you gave them some sort of reward randomly, they started doing things that they thought were causing the food to appear. And so you created a whole bunch of superstitious pigeons. They were twirling around. They would do certain pecks and head bobs and things because they thought that somehow that was causing the food to appear for them.
Yes, great. You handcrafted a bunch of schizophrenic pigeons. Good job. That's great.
Sure.
That's great. Really fantastic.
But that's humanity does that. You're trying to create some control where there is none.
Sense
so
out of
you're
chaos.
making up something that you think connects these two things.
Yeah, I could understand that.
Cognitive dissonance reduction.
But those are a lot of words.
When we hold conflicting beliefs and our actions contradict our beliefs.
People do this.
Someone who spends a lot of money on a faulty product and then you try to convince yourself that it was actually a good purchase to avoid feeling bad about your purchase.
I spent a lot of money on it. It must be good, even though all the evidence is telling you that it's terrible.
Somebody who's put a lot of effort into a failing project continues to believe.
Yes.
You're pot committed is the expression the poker players use.
Yes.
You're trying to justify your past commitment, your past investment.
Yeah, I mean, that was your point earlier, I think, especially with when you bought a shitty performing business. You bought equity in a poor performing business. You're like, but I'm already in. Got to keep going. It's like, no.
No,
no, you don't.
You're making things worse.
It's actually the worst possible answer right there. Don't double down on the bad bet.
And then there's also the backfire effect, which is basically when you present someone with the evidence of their incorrectness, they double down on it as a way to try to reinforce their belief.
They've already dug the hole. That's what we talked about earlier. Once you've already dug the hole, you're like, I'm not getting out of this thing. I'm going to just keep digging. Proof becomes the interesting question. To me, it's not a question because I look at things that are provable, and that's a very well-defined set of materials. And what you end up with in these things, and this is, I think, part of the bigger problem here, and that we're seeing this come to light more recently, is that danger in normalizing faith or belief in a thing. You're like, oh, I just believe. Okay. Is it provable? No. Why do you believe? Because
that's the whole point of faith, is you're believing in something that has no proof, that is seen as a positive thing in some way. My kid was on a basketball team. One of the grandfathers came up to me and said, I'm very boldly and proudly, I'm a man of faith.
Yeah, sure.
But he was Jewish. He was trying to build a bond with me like I was going to be a person of faith. And so we were going to get along because even though he believes something different, we both are people who have beliefs. He was trying to make a bond.
You see, I'm a man of science. What was your retort to that?
I'm sorry.
Oh, man.
You really should believe in things that you can prove. You really should not be believing in things that you don't understand.
I love it when someone comes up to you and says, I'm a man of faith, and you respond with, I'm sorry. That you've done a lot.
I don't know what else to say.
3 words. 2 words with a contraction. That's pretty good. I take a different approach on this more recently. I say that I haven't read fantasy since I was a kid. Sure. And that always gets like a little bit of a laugh, and then like an eyebrow goes up, and they try to figure it out, and they're just like, wait, what? And I'm like,
But he was appalled that I was someone who didn't think faith was a positive thing.
Of course.
That believing in things that had no basis in fact, and not believing in those things, somehow that made me not a good person.
But it's super easy for some of those folks to describe their way out of that because they just go, well, alternate facts. Like, no, 2 + 2, still 4.
One person said that, yes.
No, you still have, no, negative. There are a whole bunch of people running around that they describe their answer in, well, I just believe in a different set of facts than you. Like, I'm not making this up. There is a non-zero number of people, a large number of people that now believe that is somehow acceptable.
This poor woman's job depended on her defending the fact that there had been a small number of people, and there were photographs of the number of people who were sitting at this inauguration. And she had to defend.
Sure.
Sean Spicer, same thing. He had to say things. He had to defend this thing that was clearly not true.
Yeah.
So they made up phrases like alternative facts to try to justify the fact that they were not telling the truth. They were lying.
But now you've I mean, to a certain extent, you now have normalized that belief that there's some alternate reality that you can just choose to believe in, and that's okay. Yeah. That's accepted. And I get for some things there are gradients, but for other things there are not. Yeah. And math to me is a great example. Math and science, for the most part, there's not a lot of gray area there. There is some, but there's not a lot. Like we can debate what the square root of -1 is all day long, and there's a little bit of squish there, but not a lot.
Right.
For the most part, it's pretty well defined.
Even counting the number of bodies in a given area, that's really easy to do. There's a finite number of bodies in a given space. We can tell you what the attendance was with some precision. The truth is out there. We just may not want to see it.
No. You and I want to see it. Other folks just don't want to see it.
Because it's really harmful to not face the truth. It's really harmful.
Absolutely.
To believe errant information.
Absolutely.
Not just harmful for humanity broadly, harmful for you as an individual.
Oh, yeah. Both, without a doubt.
Right.
One of my favorite stats that came out of this, and there have been a tremendous amount of studies done on this, was an academic paper that concluded that their research indicated a correlation between receptivity to pseudo-profound bullshit and belief in and use of essential oils. And I thought that one sentence defined everything we've been wrestling with here so well.
Sure.
Like the Venn diagram of those who believe in this bullshit and use essential oils line up.
But what happens if you use the essential oils on crystals? Doesn't that work?
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
How do you think I look so young and thin in this shirt?
How do you fight? What is the way you fight the untruth?
Well, that's a great question. I'm not going to claim I have the answers here. I've certainly wrestled with this. I try to understand why people do this, right? They're typically trying to manipulate you. They're trying to cover up maybe their ignorance. They're trying to do some level of what I'll call simple impressing, right? Without facts. It's so much easier to just make up a story than actually know your facts, which I've found to be true more so lately than not, because I feel like I don't know anything. And then I realize, oh man, I know more than most on these because I'm just generally curious.
Yeah.
Until you find somebody that's an expert. I'm like, no. You know all the things about quantum mechanics. I no longer talk. You do.
Yeah.
But you gotta work your way through to find it. But then some folks just think they're fucking right.
The shaman who genuinely believes what he's selling.
That's really, really tricky. And one of the things that I found, you just breathe.
Yeah.
Like by getting agitated and trying to fight their non-facts and non-logic with facts and logic does not work. It will not work. You cannot use logic to talk somebody out of a position that they got into without using logic.
Yeah.
And that rattles around in my head. So it's like the more that I get fired up and being like, nah, you're fucking wrong about the blah, blah, blah. They actually went to the moon. It wasn't in Hollywood. All that does is help their story, right? It just helps their...
was in Burbank.
It was Burbank. Toluca Lake, actually, but Bob Hope's house. By doing all of that, you're feeding into their storytelling. Like you're just making it more of a showcase for them. So like that doesn't work. So you got to just cut that all out. I have found, and let me tell you, I'm not a man of a lot of patience.
Yeah.
But if you can just keep your mouth shut, listen to what they're saying, and then ask like laser guided, precise questions.
Sure.
And then you just watch them self-destruct.
Walk them into something where they tangle themselves up in their own
Totally.
web.
And the people that are in the conversation that already sort of know, like they're going to see what you're doing real fast and be like, all right, got you. Like you're the ally. The other thing I love to do is just like take the thing that they say and just put it back to them. You know, maybe you change a noun or whatever, you apply it somewhere else. We take the same concept, and then usually they scrub off that super fast as well.
There's this whole prevailing attitude that you can't criticize someone's beliefs.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
Like everybody's beliefs are okay.
Sure.
And that's crazy.
I agree.
That will get you in so much trouble.
Out there poking people's beliefs gets you into a bunch of trouble too. It's the trouble on the right side of truth, I think.
We can't normalize that we should just be respectful of everyone's beliefs, no matter how crazy those beliefs are. Maybe stop believing things except for things that are based in fact.
Yeah.
I don't mean to bring everything back to baseball always, but
Christ, here we go. Pitch clock.
Bill
I got
James.
It.
Have you read Moneyball?
I have.
Bill James, the thing he did was, let's take away everything we can't actually prove.
Yeah.
Let's take away all the stuff that we believe about baseball. And now let's just look at it through the lens of things we can actually prove.
Yeah.
The math of what we can actually prove. What is baseball? It is getting 3 outs and then your inning is over. Well, how do we stop getting the outs? Because obviously that's the most important.
Get on base.
And this wonderful thing in the movie where they're actually complaining about players. He's got an ugly girlfriend. That shows he has no confidence. The scouts are all talking. Talking about things that make no difference in a player's ability.
Qualitative versus quantitative. Yeah, totally.
But their careers, their financial security required them to believe these old wives' fables.
Needed a reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So it required them to believe these old things, and it made them very upset that the mathematical guys were coming in with this whole different way of looking at things. They know nothing about baseball. We've done this for centuries. Our people have done this. We know it's about the guy who has the ugly girlfriend, has no confidence.
Yeah. Here's my big takeaway.
Yeah.
I believe everyone really wants to know the truth, and I'm 100% wrong about that.
You're 100% wrong.
Not everyone really wants to know the truth.
They want to prove something that they believe, and so they're starting with the conclusion. Never start with the conclusion. Let the data lead where the data leads.
Totally. But I still go to but don't you want to know the truth? And you're like, they just want to sell more chamois.
Ask questions. Reflect on what you believe to be the truth, and be scrupulously honest with yourself.
Yeah, I think being honest with yourself is probably the hardest part. But the scientific method, man, it's a hypothesis. It's take the thing and then question it. I learned it in like 4th grade.
Sure.
And it seems to work. And I think the world would be a much better place if everybody followed it. How about you?
Above all else, be truthful to yourself. Be honest to yourself. Work on not deceiving yourself.
I think that's actually a harder thing to do than following scientific method. And that seems pretty fucking hard for most people anyway.
For the record, the Earth is 4.54 billion years old. This age is determined through radiometric dating of meteorite material and is consistent with the ages of the oldest known terrestrial and lunar samples. Yeah. All right, we have to get out of here, but quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Oh yeah, I can't. I gotta plug this. So I I don't use ChatGPT very much. I occasionally throw things through it. We're doing something for the show, looking for some ideas or research or whatnot. For this segment, I put some things through it. This new UI update came out. It prompted me. It said, ask it to describe me based on all of our chats and make it catchy. That was the prompt that it gave me. Yeah. And ChatGPT came back with, you're a razor-sharp wisecracker with a silicone soul, part technophile, part satirist, and fully fluent in both aerospace acronyms and Andrew Dice Clay punchlines. And I was like, wow, that's pretty good.
Sure.
And it goes on, and it knows about our show, and it knows we juggle tech.
That's like me telling you I like your shirt.
I know. It 100% was lying.
You want to believe it because it's flattering.
I could literally see its fingers crossed behind it. I was just like, okay, I know what you're fucking doing. But it was really funny that it came back. And then I was like, oh, this is great. I'm totally going to use this verbatim on this show's week's close.
Sure.
And it came back with, hell yes, that's a killer closer. If you're feeling spicy, you can even button it up with something like, and if that doesn't describe me, then ChatGPT's got a bug. See you next week, nerds. And I was like, wow, that's pretty good. Like, it wasn't terrible. So they clearly turned it up a slight notch from the last time I used it. That's all. That's what I saw. How about you? What have you seen?
Poker Face, season 1 on Peacock, stylized as a case of the week murder mystery series like Columbo. It stars Natasha Lyonne as Charlie Cale, a casino worker on the run who has a perfect lie detector built into her brain. She always knows with absolute certainty when someone is not telling her the truth, which is why I thought this was a perfect match for this episode.
Yeah, of course.
Amazing guest stars in solving homicides every week. Even the opening credits are stylized to look like early 70s old-time detective TV.
Cool.
It is great fun. Poker Face season 1 on Peacock now. While it's still floor director Ron's birthday week, I should mention he's the one who recommended it to me.
Oh, that's awesome. I do have a question. Would you rather have her ability in the show, the ability to 100% accurately know if someone is lying to you or not? Or would you rather have the ability to 100% lie to someone such that they couldn't tell if you were telling the truth or not? Which one would you rather have?
I'd rather have her ability.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think you're so much better off.
That's more useful.
Because I feel like that's a many to one problem. You'd be able to sort through everybody as opposed to being able to say whatever you want. You can only do so much damage.
Yeah.
All right, well, we both agree. I'm going to have to go watch that now. Thanks a lot.
That is the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense. It's really terrible podcast from our awful company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm Jill.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, AntennaPod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, my favorite Overcast, wherever you may get your podcasts from.
As always, Nonsense is brought to you by the National Association of Sock Manufacturers, supporting research and development from moisture-wicking wonders to odor-fighting marvels. Next time you slip on a pair of comfy socks, remember the dedication and craftsmanship of the members of the National Association of Sock Manufacturers. Treat your feet to the luxury they deserve.
I desperately want to go to one of their conventions. That's got to be a fucking hoot, right? The National Association of Sock Manufacturers, those guys, they know how to fucking party, let me tell you.
Of course they do.
When they're making it rain pairs of gold toes at the strip club, that shit is real. You get some socks and you get some socks. We'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us.
What's a lie that you've fallen prey to in your life?
Oh yeah. You should do this show. It'll be great. It'll be once a week. It'll be fun. People will really love it. Fucking hook, line, and sinker. Took that one up.